Before you think I've lost my mind, let me explain what I mean. I'm not talking about being dishonest or secretive in a way that hurts people. I'm talking about understanding the profound difference between sharing your dreams and sharing your results. I'm talking about the wisdom of protecting your mental and emotional energy from the dream stealers, the energy vampires, and the well-meaning but misguided people who will talk you out of your success before you even get started. You see, most people have it backwards. They announce their intentions before they've done the work. They tell everyone about their big plans before they've taken the first serious step. They seek approval and validation from people who haven't achieved what they want to achieve. And then they wonder why their enthusiasm dies, why their motivation disappears, and why they never seem to follow through on their grand visions. Here's what I've learned in my years of studying success and human behavior. The moment you tell someone what you're going to do, you give away some of your power. You dilute your energy. You open yourself up to opinions, doubts, and negativity that can derail your progress before you've even begun. Every person you tell becomes a judge of your decision, and most of them aren't qualified to sit on that jury. Think about it this way. When you have a powerful idea, when you feel that surge of excitement about a new direction in your life, that energy is pure potential. It's like holding a flame in your hands. Every time you tell someone about your plans, you're exposing that flame to the wind. Some people will blow gently and barely affect it. Others will blow so hard they'll extinguish it completely. But here's the thing, you don't know which kind of wind each person will bring until it's too late. The unsuccessful person says, I'm going to start a business. The successful person starts the business. The unsuccessful person says, I'm going to lose weight. The successful person changes their eating habits. The unsuccessful person says, I'm going to write a book. The successful person sits down and writes the first page. Do you see the difference? One is talking about doing, the other is doing. Now, I'm not suggesting you become a hermit or that you can't share your journey with anyone. What I'm suggesting is that you become very selective about who gets access to your dreams and when they get that access. There's a time for sharing and there's a time for silence. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Let me tell you about the psychology of announcement. When you tell people about your goals, your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction. It feels like you've already accomplished something just by talking about it. Psychologists call this social reality. Your brain starts to believe that talking about doing something is almost the same as actually doing it. This is why so many people are great talkers and poor performers. They've satisfied their need for accomplishment through conversation rather than action. But here's where it gets even more interesting. When you keep your plans to yourself, when you work in silence, something magical happens. All that energy that would have been dissipated through conversation gets channeled into action. All that mental and emotional power that would have been scattered to the wind gets concentrated into focused effort. You become like a laser instead of a light bulb, concentrated, powerful, and effective. The people who achieve extraordinary things understand this principle instinctively. They know that loose lips don't just sink ships, they sink dreams. They understand that the time to talk about what you've done is after you've done it, not before. They know that results speak louder than intentions, and they let their results do the talking. Think about the most successful people you know. Really think about them. How often do they announce their next big move before they make it? How often do they seek approval for their decisions from people who haven't achieved what they want to achieve? Not very often, I'll bet. They understand that success is an inside job, and they don't need external validation to move forward with their plans. Now, let's talk about the dream stealers. These are the people who consciously or unconsciously will try to talk you out of your success. They come in many forms. Sometimes they're family members who say they're just trying to protect you. Sometimes they're friends who don't want to see you change because it makes them uncomfortable with their own lack of progress. Sometimes they're colleagues who feel threatened by your ambition. And sometimes they're complete strangers who feel entitled to give you their opinion about your life. The dream stealers have a whole arsenal of weapons they use to derail your progress. They'll tell you it's been done before. They'll tell you you're not qualified. They'll tell you the market is too competitive. They'll tell you you're too old, too young, too inexperienced, too this or too this. They'll remind you of every person who tried and failed. They'll fill your head with statistics about failure rates and horror stories about people who lost everything. And here's the insidious part. Most of them mean well. They think they're being helpful. They think they're being realistic. They think they're saving you from disappointment or failure. But what they're really doing is projecting their own fears, limitations, and lack of vision onto your life. They're giving you their reality instead of encouraging you to create your own. This is why silence is so powerful. When you don't announce your plans, you don't give the dream stealers anything to work with. You protect yourself from their negativity, their doubts, and their limitations. You keep your energy intact and your vision clear. You maintain the purity of your intention and the strength of your conviction. But there's another reason why keeping quiet about your plans is so important, and this one might surprise you. When you tell people what you're going to do, you're making a public commitment. Now, you might think that's a good thing, that public commitment will hold you accountable and force you to follow through. But here's what really happens. Public commitment creates pressure, and pressure creates stress, and stress kills creativity and enthusiasm. When you've told everyone about your big plan, you start to feel like you have to succeed not just for yourself, but for all the people who are watching and waiting to see if you'll follow through. You start to worry about looking foolish if things don't work out. You start to second guess yourself because you know people are judging your progress. You start to make decisions based on what other people will think instead of what's best for your success. This external pressure can be paralyzing. It can cause you to play it safe when you need to take risks. It can cause you to quit when you hit the first obstacle because you're embarrassed to continue struggling in public. It can cause you to rush through important steps because you feel like people are expecting quick results. In short, it can completely derail your success. Contrast this with working in silence. When nobody knows what you're doing, you have complete freedom to experiment, to fail, to adjust your approach, to take your time to figure things out without the pressure of public scrutiny. You can make mistakes without embarrassment. You can change direction without having to explain yourself to anyone. You can work at your own pace and in your own way. This freedom is incredibly valuable, especially in the early stages of any endeavor. The beginning is when you're most vulnerable, when you're learning, when you're making the most mistakes. It's when you need support and encouragement, not judgment and criticism. By keeping your plans to yourself, you protect this vulnerable phase and give yourself the best chance of making it through to success. Now, let's talk about timing. There is a time to share what you're doing, but it's not when most people think it is. Most people want to share their plans at the very beginning when they're excited and full of hope. But the right time to share is when you have something concrete to show for your efforts. When you have results, not just intentions. When you have proof of concept, not just ideas. Here's a good rule of thumb. Don't tell people what you're going to do. Tell them what you've done. Don't announce your launch date. Celebrate your first sale. Don't talk about your business plan. Talk about your first customer. Don't discuss your weight loss goals. Show up looking and feeling better. Don't mention your book idea. Show them the finished manuscript. This approach serves you in multiple ways. First, it protects you during the vulnerable planning and early implementation phases. Second, it ensures that when you do share, you're sharing from a position of strength rather than hope. Third, it makes your sharing more impactful because you have concrete evidence to support your words. And fourth, it builds your credibility because you become known as someone who does what they say they're going to do, even if they don't say it until after they've done it. There's also something to be said for the power of mystery. When people don't know exactly what you're up to, when they see you working diligently but quietly, when they notice changes in your life but you're not advertising the cause, you create curiosity and respect. People start to see you as someone who's serious about their success, someone who doesn't need constant validation or attention, someone who gets things done. This kind of reputation is incredibly valuable. It attracts the right kind of people into your life, people who respect focused action and who want to be around successful, driven individuals. It repels the wrong kind of people, those who feed on drama, gossip, and other people's business. It positions you as a leader rather than a follower, as someone who creates rather than just consumes. Let me share with you a concept I call productive paranoia. This is the healthy suspicion that not everyone wants to see you succeed. Now, I'm not talking about becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone. I'm talking about being realistic about human nature and protecting yourself accordingly. The truth is, your success makes some people uncomfortable. It challenges their excuses. It highlights their lack of action. It forces them to confront their own limitations and choices. Some people will celebrate your success, but others will resent it. Some will be inspired by your progress, but others will be threatened by it. You can't control how people react to your success, but you can control how much access they have to your journey while it's happening. Productive paranoia means being selective about who you trust with your dreams. It means recognizing that not everyone who acts like they're on your team actually wants you to win. It means understanding that some people will use the information you share against you, either consciously or unconsciously. It means protecting your energy and your plans until you're strong enough to withstand the negativity and criticism that success inevitably attracts. This doesn't make you a bad person. This makes you a smart person. This makes you someone who understands that success is a responsibility. And part of that responsibility is protecting the conditions that make success possible. Now, let's address the loneliness factor. Some of you might be thinking, but Jim, if I don't tell anyone what I'm doing, won't I be lonely? Won't I feel isolated? Don't I need support and encouragement from others? These are valid concerns, and here's how I suggest you handle them. First, understand the difference between sharing your process and sharing your plans. You can talk about the work you're doing without revealing your ultimate goal. You can discuss the skills you're developing without announcing your intended outcome. You can share your daily disciplines without disclosing your long-term vision. This way you get the connection and support you need without exposing your dreams to unnecessary scrutiny. Second, if you absolutely must share your plans with someone, be very selective about who that someone is. Choose people who have achieved what you want to achieve or who are working towards similar goals. Choose people who are naturally positive and supportive. Choose people who understand the value of discretion and who won't broadcast your business to the world. 1 or 2 carefully chosen confidants are better than a dozen casual acquaintances who know your business. Third, remember that the most important support you need comes from within. External encouragement is nice, but internal conviction is essential. If your motivation depends on other people's approval and enthusiasm, you're building your success on a very shaky foundation. Learn to be your own biggest supporter. Learn to find satisfaction in the work itself, not just in other people's praise for the work. The people who achieve the most in life are often the ones who can work effectively in solitude. They don't need constant feedback and validation. They don't need other people to maintain their enthusiasm. They've developed the inner strength and self-discipline to keep moving forward even when nobody's watching, even when nobody cares, even when nobody believes in what they're doing. This self-reliance is not just helpful, it's essential. Because there will be times in your journey when you are alone. There will be times when nobody understands what you're trying to accomplish. There will be times when even your closest supporters lose faith in your vision. If you've learned to depend on yourself, these times won't derail you. If you haven't, they will. Let's talk about the competitive advantage that comes from working in silence. In today's world, everyone is broadcasting everything. People share their breakfast on social media and announce their gym workouts, document their every thought and feeling. In this environment of constant oversharing, the person who works quietly and purposefully has a significant advantage. While your competitors are busy telling everyone what they're going to do, you're actually doing it. While they're seeking likes and comments and validation, you're developing skills and building systems. While they're distracted by the noise of social media and public opinion, you're focused on the signal of real progress. While they're performing for an audience, you're actually performing. This gives you several competitive advantages. First, you're not telegraphing your moves to your competition. They can't copy your strategy because they don't know what it is. They can't block your path because they don't know where you're going. They can't prepare countermeasures because they don't know what measures you're taking. Second, you're not bound by public expectations. You can pivot when necessary without having to explain yourself. You can take longer than expected without disappointing anyone. You can change your approach without looking inconsistent. This flexibility is incredibly valuable in a world that changes rapidly and unpredictably. Third, you're not wasting time and energy on activities that don't directly contribute to your success. You're not spending hours crafting social media posts about your journey. You're not getting into debates about your methods or your goals. You're not managing other people's expectations or answering their questions about your progress. All of that time and energy goes directly into productive action. This is what I call the stealth mode advantage. You're making progress while flying under the radar. You're building momentum without creating resistance. You're developing strength without revealing your strategy. And then when you're ready, when you've achieved something significant, you can reveal yourself and your accomplishments to maximum effect. Think about how much more impressive it is when someone appears to come out of nowhere with a successful business, a transformed physique, a published book, or a new skill set. People are amazed because they didn't see the work that went into the result. They only see the outcome, not the process. This creates a powerful impression and establishes you as someone who gets things done rather than someone who talks about getting things done. Now let's discuss the relationship between silence and focus. When you're not constantly talking about what you're doing, when you're not fielding questions and opinions and advice from everyone around you, you can maintain much better focus on your actual work. Your mental energy isn't scattered across multiple conversations and concerns. Your attention isn't divided between doing the work and explaining the work. Focus is one of the rarest and most valuable commodities in today's world. Most people can't focus on anything for more than a few minutes at a time. They're constantly distracted by notifications, conversations, and other people's opinions. But the people who achieve extraordinary results are the ones who can maintain sustained focus on their most important activities. When you work in silence, you protect your focus. You create an environment where deep work is possible. You eliminate the mental clutter that comes from managing other people's expectations and reactions. You give yourself the best possible chance to do your best possible work. This focused work, this deep engagement with your most important activities is where the magic happens. This is where you develop mastery. This is where you create value. This is where you build the foundation for lasting success. And you can't do this kind of work if you're constantly interrupted by the need to explain yourself to others. Let me tell you about what I call the announcement trap. This is the mistake that kills more dreams than any other single factor. The announcement trap works like this. You get excited about a new goal or project. You tell everyone about it. You get some positive feedback that makes you feel good. And then you unconsciously start to believe that announcing the goal is the same as achieving it. Your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction from the announcement. People congratulate you on your decision. They tell you it's a great idea. They express confidence in your ability to succeed. And all of this positive feedback triggers the same reward system in your brain that actually achieving the goal would trigger. So your motivation decreases because your brain thinks you've already gotten what you were looking for, recognition and validation. This is why so many people are great at starting things and terrible at finishing them. They get their emotional payoff from the announcement and instead of from the accomplishment. They satisfy their need for recognition through conversation instead of through results. They use up their motivational energy in talking instead of saving it for working. The solution is simple. Get your satisfaction from the work, not from talking about the work. Get your validation from progress, not from promises. Get your recognition from results, not from intentions. This shift in where you seek emotional reward will completely transform your ability to follow through on your commitments. When you stop announcing your plans, when you stop seeking validation for your ideas, when you stop looking for approval before you take action, something wonderful happens. You start to trust yourself more. You start to rely on your own judgment. You start to develop the inner confidence that comes from knowing you can commit to something and follow through regardless of what anyone else thinks. This self-reliance is the foundation of all real success, because ultimately your success depends on your ability to make good decisions and take consistent action, not on your ability to get other people to believe in your decisions and actions. Other people's belief is nice, but it's not necessary. Your belief is both nice and necessary. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with some practical guidelines for implementing this principle in your life. First, make a commitment to yourself that for the next 90 days, you will not announce any new goals, plans, or projects to anyone. If someone asks what you're working on, give them a general answer that doesn't reveal your specific intentions. Say something like, I'm focusing on some personal development, or I'm working on improving my situation. Second, identify the people in your life who are dream stealers and energy vampires and make a conscious decision to limit their access to your plans and your process. You don't have to be rude or dramatic about this. Just become more selective about what you share and with whom you share it. Third, find one or two people who can serve as positive confidants, people who have achieved what you want to achieve or who are on a similar journey. Share your plans with them only if and when you feel it would be genuinely helpful, not just because you need validation or approval. Fourth, develop the habit of celebrating your progress privately before you share it publicly, if you share at all. Take time to acknowledge your own efforts and achievements before looking for acknowledgement from others. This helps you develop internal motivation and satisfaction that doesn't depend on external validation. Fifth, practice the discipline of working without immediate feedback or recognition. Learn to find satisfaction in the work itself, in the process of improvement, in the daily discipline of moving toward your goals. This is perhaps the most important skill you can develop because it makes you independent of other people's opinions and expectations. The principle of never telling anyone what you do is not about being secretive or antisocial. It's about being strategic with your energy, protective of your dreams, and focused on results rather than reactions. It's about understanding that success is an inside job and that the most important approval you need is your own. Remember, the world is full of people who talk about what they're going to do. But the world rewards people who actually do what they set out to do. Be one of the doers, not one of the talkers. Work in silence. Let your results speak for themselves, and watch how much more you accomplish when you stop announcing your intentions and start demonstrating your capabilities. The choice is yours, and the time is now. Your dreams are too important to be left to the mercy of other people's opinions. Your success is too valuable to be diluted by unnecessary conversations. Your potential is too great to be limited by the need for external validation. Guard your plans, protect your energy, and focus on the work that will transform your vision into reality. The world doesn't need to know what you're doing until you've done it. And when you have done it, your results will speak louder than any announcement ever could.